I'm sending emojis to our chat.
Okay, test. Oh, telemarketer.
Dude, hell yeah.
Turn that off.
All right.
I thought I would not wear a hat for this one.
All right, I'm going to start streaming. We're recording. Oh, we're live. We're going live. Hey, everybody. We got Matt in the chat. I think Matt and I were emailing today. Mr. Russell T, good to see you guys. Welcome to the show tonight. This is going to be a fun one because we've got your questions, which I'm really excited about because it tends to be things that I don't think about, and Nick, who I'll be pulling in here in a second, certainly doesn't think about either. Let me rope in Nick here. Welcome, Nick. Got the applause for you. All right, hey everybody. So tonight we're actually going to record a live podcast with your help. So this will be sort of like an interactive episode that I'm excited about. It's the first time we've done a live stream together. The preview here is this is an episode of the Full Grain podcast. So this is on the Ashland YouTube channel right now, which I brought it over here because I know people would show up. We're on the Full Grain podcast YouTube channel. We don't really have a lot of people there. So do us a favor if you are able to. I think I put it in the description for the Full Grain podcast YouTube channel, but we've been posting clips of the show over there, and I think it's really great stuff. In fact, I was just working on an episode, Nick, finishing up the one we did with Jason Gregory from Maker, and that episode's coming out on Monday. It's really, really, really good. That guy's an incredible talent. We're going to do some questions. We've received some emails of questions from people that listen to the show. We're going to be answering some questions from our emails. And then after we answer a couple questions here, I'd love to get some questions from you guys in the live chat. So if you have any questions about leather or even non-leather stuff, we're pretty excited to have a conversation. So let's get this going, Nick. And by the way, Nick Horween, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for doing all the work, setting everything up.
Thanks for
Makes it easy to be here. Thank you.
Well, it's funny because like we normally do this in person, so this is my first time like talking to you over the internet, and it's like honestly, it's like it sucks because the whole reason to do the show with you was because I wanted to hang out. I guess we're kind of hanging out. I don't know. All right, let me bring in the question here, Nick. All right. So first question is, I pulled up an image here on the screen. All right. The first question here comes in from Matt, who I think is in the chat right now. What's up, Matt? Matt's asking some interesting questions about things I've never heard of. There's a product called Eco Apparition Leather that is a translucent leather. And it's exactly how it sounds. So you've got an image up on the screen of a cowhide that it's transparent. You can see through it. It's got a little bit of color to it. Have you ever seen this before, Nick?
I haven't. I'm reading about it right now.
Okay, then we'll wait for you. Just let us know when we can continue with the show.
No, we should keep.
I'll just let you do your reading.
I'm a little late on my show note research. Sorry about that.
It's pretty fascinating, right? Like,
it's interesting. Yeah.
When I heard in his email, he said transparent leather. I'm like, there's no way this is a natural material, but it straight up says it's a cowhide in the from Eco, I believe is the brand that sells it. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that's even possible, but I would imagine that they're somehow bleaching all of the fibers in that skin so you can see through them. Do you have any sort of speculation on how they're achieving this?
I mean, I thought it was kind of like the natural old-fashioned parchment that was actually animal skin, which is kind of translucent. Not translucent, not really the right word. It's more like an opaque look to it, and that's what this looks like too. But I mean, the only thing I can think of is that it must be really quite thin, and also I'm wondering if there's some sort of impregnation happening of something that's also clear that lets things through. So instead of using, pigments and like tree barks and stuff that tend to be pretty dark and heavy and solid and don't let light through, my guess would be that they're staying away from that stuff, to let the light pass through as much as possible. But that's really my only guess.
It's pretty neat. I kind of like it. I don't know if I want people seeing my feet though. If I made that into a shoe,
Yeah,
they're pretty gross Hobbit feet.
I mean, the picture on that I'm looking at is of an anorak, like a rain jacket kind of thing, and it looks. Actually, I think it looks pretty good, but I'm not sure why you wouldn't just make that out of nylon so that it acts like a rain jacket. If it's going to look like one, but I don't. It's still really interesting.
Yeah,
I would definitely be interested
think
in learning more.
Yeah, why would you want this? Matt's saying that they have their own tannery in Indonesia. Eco's the tannery. And he says it reminds him of transparent wood experiments you've seen on YouTube. But yeah, it's pretty neat, man. I had never seen this, and it's awesome. I think it's really cool. Thinking about some of the finishing that you do at Horween, I have some thoughts. But could you imagine a way to finish a transparent leather to give it some sort of effect that you would find compelling?
Yeah, I think the goal is to put as little on it as possible. I'm wondering how consistent their colors would be with this, because I kind of think that whatever color the base tannage gives you, you probably don't have a lot of latitude to adjust it without affecting how that light passes through. And also, the pictures that I'm looking at are all pretty like they're all very backlit, so it's hard to get a really good look at what this stuff actually would look like with just in like normal light. But I would be very interested in seeing a piece of it.
All right, so I'll buy you a piece, and maybe you'll turn into a transparent leather tannery. The thing I was thinking of was, we in one of our episodes we were talking about finishing leather on the unintended, like the flesh outside. I was kind of thinking it might be an interesting thing to think of this translucent leather as like a sandwich, but the translucent part would be like the meat of the sandwich, and then on the bread you could do like swirly patterns on each side to give it this like depth. I think that would be kind of interesting, especially if you did multiple colors. I mean, I don't know like if I want a shoe out of that, but I could see some cool future in the translucent leather.
But I wonder if there's any grain to it, and my guess would probably be no. And then I wonder if it's even, what says it's bovine, so maybe it is, like a full substance and not like something that's bonded or composite. But I don't know. It's really hard to tell from the pictures.
Pretty neat.
Very neat.
Pretty neat. Matt had another one here. I'm going to bring up on the screen. There's a picture of a boot here. I'm actually inspired by this. This is something that I think about a lot when we make our wallets out of your leather, Nick. This is a picture of a boot made out of horsebutt, and it is shrunken horsebutt. Can you please describe for me what you see here on these boots, Nick?
It's kind of like a two-tone effect. There's a matte portion towards the heel, and then up over towards the toe area, and then the forefoot is shinier and really highly textured with ridges. It's interesting. The construction, I mean, the way the leather was cut into the shoe makes the whole thing work.
It's very creative.
Yeah, definitely.
I actually have in front of me, I'm going to pull up a different screen here so people can see this. This is a wallet that I've been wearing out of the tumbled shell cordovan that you make, Nick. And it reminds me of this a little bit with an additional area of the hide that was used. And that's what's cool about this picture here with the boot. And it looks to me like they purposely cut the shrunken texture of the shell over the center of the boot and left the sides of the boot the non-shell section. And I think we should drill a little bit deeper on this, Nick. Can you explain a little bit about what the shell is in the hide and how it's sort of not all over the place?
The part that's in the picture, and I don't know if everyone can see the picture or who can see the picture, but the part that I described as being shinier and more textured over the front of the shoe, that's the shell part. And the part behind it is, from the same hide, obviously, but there's no shell cordovan in that spot. None of that. The structure that I'm talking about it's a fibrous membrane that's inside the hindquarters of the horse and only in that spot. And it's super dense, and it develops, at least the way it's been explained to me, like a callus from the way the animal moves. So there's like a circular motion underneath where the shell would be, and then that forms this tough membrane over time. So generally the larger and the older the animals are, the larger and the thicker the shells tend to be. When we tan this product, we spend a lot of time tanning it, but we also spend a lot of time exposing that layer because it's not exposed to the world unless you take lengths to expose it. So in this picture, it's been exposed and it's been, like you said, it looks like it's been shrunken. And I'm not sure if that was a natural occurrence because I've seen this before and we've done it unintentionally, and I don't know that we've actually tried to repeat it, but the reason it's shrunken in one spot and not the other is because you've got significantly different fiber structures that are being affected by the tanning process. What would cause the shell area to shrink wouldn't necessarily cause the non-shell area to shrink, which is why you get that pretty dramatic two-tone effect. It's interesting.
People don't seem to love the shrunken look of the shell. And I'm supposing that the shell's nice enough as it is that you don't need to mess with it too much. I feel like like for me on this wallet, I feel like I like this tumbled shell because it's novel to me. Like I don't see it as much. And that's like very, very much like a privileged place for me to be because I've seen enough shell to like, I love the normal shell, but I also like the embossings and the tumbling like this just because it's a little bit more unique. The thing that's a little bit different about the tumbled shell that you do, Nick, there's something about it when the tumbling is performed on it, it really opens up the shell, which is significantly different than how I normally see shell. So let me try to explain that better. The shells as they normally come, the genuine shell cordovan, very, very flat, very, very smooth, and very, very tight. Like everything's very dense. And then I think what's happened once you've tumbled it is it's sort of like bloomed open all those little fibers. So it almost feels like velvety and fuzzy once it's been tumbled. Therefore, I believe what's happening is it allows it to accept like a little bit more of a dramatic patina. In my experience, there's something different about it once it's been opened up like that. And then once you wear it, like I've been wearing this one a bit again, and it's much more flat now than it was before. And it doesn't have this sort of like cloudy, like fuzzy look like it did originally. It's almost smooth again. So I find that interesting about the tumbled shells just because it's different and novel for me. And on these boots, the thing that I think is magical about this and inspiring is these boots, which Matt says they were made by Carol Christian Pohl. I'm not familiar with Carol Christian Pohl. The thing that's interesting about these boots to me, and the inspiring part about it, is that they've cut the boots to suit the leather. And that's something that we do a lot with your leathers, Nick, is they're all, especially in something like a tumbled shell or marbled shell, there's so much natural variation in there that it takes a little bit of creativity and sort of artistic expression to cut your pattern pieces around those naturally appearing looks. And that's what I love about these boots is down the center of the boot, you got the shell, and then you can see the non-shell section on the side, which we call the horsebutt part. It's like a little bit more of a suede sort of fibrous, obviously less dense than the shell, and you don't get that same sort of rolling creases. I like these boots a lot. I think it's really impressive. Just I can tell the thought that went into making those is a big deal. All right, Nick, I'm going to keep going here because the next one reminds me.
They're definitely one of one. Those boots.
Yes. No,
I mean, that's not a production product. Which is interesting. I mean, interesting.
This is your great questions for Matt. Something I hadn't considered, and I think it's an interesting notion. Matt brought it up again about object tanned leather. And what he means by that is you're going to create your product and then tan it. So I'm going to put up an image on the screen here of some boots, again, from the same maker, Carol Christian Pohl, which are pretty cool. I think they're pretty cool looking. But what I don't understand is how these were assembled with the hair on it. So I'm suspecting there's something more to just crafting the item and then tanning it. What do you think's going on here, Nick?
I mean, so if they were assembled with the hair on, which sounds like a pretty intense idea. Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, so the idea is they stitch everything together and then tan it and then put the bottoms on, I guess, then put the midsole and the outsole on. I think is the only way you could really do it. But
see, I think Matt's presented us a screwball. And thanks a lot, Matt. I think what this actually happened here, if you look in the inside of the boot and the shaft, there might be a liner in there. But I suspect that what they're actually doing is they're taking finished leather, sewing it into a boot, and then over dyeing it, like dyeing it again in a drum, maybe with some other tanning materials. But that's my suspicion here.
More sense.
Yeah, and then attaching the outsole afterwards.
Yeah. We've done that. You take crust and you get boots that don't have like any buckles or zippers or outsoles on them. And then they're just uppers and that have been taken off the last, and then you can antique them or dye them or do a bunch of different stuff in the mill and then dry them and then relast them and finish them after that, which makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. I don't think you could make a hair on like raw hide. I
don't know why my brain went all the way back there. It's too much.
Well, that's where my brain went too when he said like first you assemble it and then you tan it. We got tanner brain. Those are cool.
I'm going too far back.
I like the look of them, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I mean, I'll check out this designer. It's very creative.
Yep.
Austrian designer, according to Google.
So in the second episode of our show, Nick, Full Grain Podcast, if you haven't checked it out, check out the Full Grain Podcast. The second episode has been a hit. Seems like it's one of our most listened to shows. And at the end of the episode, we had a news segment about J.R. Rendenbach. And I received an email from another Matt. It might be this. I don't know if this is this might be a different Matt. But Matt, I'm going to pull up the actual correspondence here. So Matt says, I'm a third generation shoe repairman, and our shop has used J.R. Leather soles for many years. It's the best for replacement soles for multiple reasons. Mainly being it stitches very well and consistent. Podcast over, everybody. Mainly being it stitches very well and consistently, and the sole looks clean and very professional when finished. Unlike other leather soles on the market, shots fired. It does last for a very long time, and once it's broken in, the sole has plenty of life left. Whereas other brands are almost worn out when they look broken in. So this is not so much of a question, but number one, I wanted to thank Matt because he actually, after this paragraph in the email, he actually offered to send me some outsoles, bottoms, for somebody local to put them on here. But I wasn't aware of some of these aspects of the JR Leather soles. Maybe we could reiterate again what your experience with JR has been, Nick.
Limited. I mean, I've talked to Mr. Rendenbach a few times at shows, but other than their reputation in the market of just being super old-fashioned and how they do things and taking a long time, with their bark tannage. And then they've got the hard-wearing, long-lasting reputation, and I think that they've earned that since they've been a tannery they were a tannery, for I forget how many years, longer than we were a tannery, or longer than we've been a tannery. I think you and I were talking, or somebody said that either they sold or they contracted out the formulas to another tannery, and I think it was you that told me that those like the first round of that stuff is going to be available soon. So it'll be interesting to see how that compares to the original product from the original tannery.
Yeah, Matt, the person that sent this email, he continued on to say that he has a distributor for those outsoles from the new Rendenbach producer. I don't know how else to put it. The other tannery that's now producing those soles. And he said that they will be receiving some soon. So end of this year, early 2023 is what he told me. It seems like the community of people that are really into footwear are really excited about JR. And when that news article came out about a year ago, there was a lot of people being really upset. And for me, it's also really upsetting to think about these family businesses and the knowledge that has accumulated over all those generations going away. So I'm glad to hear there's somebody else picking up the reins. All right, we got one more question here. Oh, this is an easy one. So here's a question from HD, who sent us an email. And HD wants to know what the history of the Boxboard print is, specifically the Pioneer leather that you create at Horween.
Well, Boxboard is, it's a embossing pattern that's made to look like leather that's been hand boarded. So if you bend leather back against itself, the way you're not supposed to kind of break the grain up in one direction, if you do it the right way under the right conditions, you can get the leather to develop horizontal lines. And then if you rotate leather and then do that same thing again, you can create a hatch pattern, whether it's squares or some sort of diamond shape. But you can break it up so that it develops that boxboard pattern. And then, the idea is that the embossing plate pattern approach is, a lot more consistent. And also the pattern is crammed into the leather better. So if you're going to make a pair of shoes out of it or something, when you last it, the pattern is going to stay in place a lot better if it's embossed, generally, than it would if you were just to board it by hand.
I mean, every hide's a little bit different too. So I've noticed when you board certain tannages, that sort of delamination pebbling of the boarding is different from hide to hide, even within the hide itself. Especially when you're doing it perpendicular to itself, like on the boxboard, you fold it over itself, press it down, and you get these like ripples of delamination, sort of like how your foot flexes, that little bit of pebbling. It's very inconsistent. Like Chrome Excel Lottery might come from the same notion, but that you're saying the printing it eliminates all those variables for you. It sort of pre-creases everything in the direction that you're pressing.
Yeah, it's not even at that point. It's not even a crease. It's just a pattern. So it's approximating the look that you would get from that. But I'm not sure. I think that the hand boarding is interesting. I think that trying to get it uniform across an entire hide when you're selling it by the square foot is almost impossible. And I think that the most successful applications I've seen are where you cut the piece first and then you're hand boarding the smaller piece, because then you get the pattern in the direction that you want it to be, and then that it's going to stay in there because you've got you're doing it to a vamp instead of 20 feet of leather.
Makes sense.
Seems to make more sense. Yeah.
I've also been under the impression that this pattern was popularized by that wacky Russian submarine story, and the details are fuzzy for me. Do you know the story?
Keep finding more of that leather.
Yeah, give me the story of the Russian submarine, or was it a ship? Or maybe it was a ship.
It was a ship. Yeah, it was a ship that sank with a bunch of leather on it. I think it was Reindeer. I should.
Russian Reindeer.
Was it Reindeer?
I think it was. That's why Pioneer Reindeer is the name of the article you make, right? Or Reindeer Pioneer? I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, I think it was Reindeer. But
look up your notes, Nick. We got tons of time here. It's not like a live show or anything.
I'm done. I got it. Yeah, it's interesting. It's novel. The idea was that it was underwater, and I think it was cold, and it was in a place that there wasn't anything that was going to happen to the leather. So they brought it back up, and it was basically the same as when they put it down there. And I think it was sort of the hallmark of it was tanned with a lot of birch oil or extract, so it has a distinct smell. But that's, you can still do that now. It's not like it's a lost art.
Do you think there's something to it being submerged under cold water for that long that would affect it in a positive or a negative way?
I don't know.
Or it's just a cool story.
Yeah,
How do you say? We should look this up. How do you say bro in Russian? Because it would be a cool story, bro.
I don't usually say bro in English. So.
All right. Well, I've seen that stuff. I think it looks cool. And you were joking about seeing more and more of that leather.
Because people just make leather. They put a boxboard print on, they antique it, and they're like, "Oh, we found more of this Russian reindeer," and then they sell it for whatever people pay for it. I think that at this point that most of that or all of that leather is probably out in the world. So if you see a bunch of it for sale, it's probably
illegitimate.
imitation.
Like the one you're making, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, reindeer is the color that we make. It's not.
Oh, really?
Reindeer is the leather. Yeah.
I didn't know that. All right, hey everybody, now's the time to ask your questions in the chat. We'll just kind of BS here while we wait for you. If you asked a question earlier, drop it, copy and paste it, and drop it in here again. But we're happy to answer questions and chat with you guys. Those are all the predetermined questions we had for the show today. All right, Nick, what are you going to cook for Thanksgiving this year?
I'm going to someone else's house that's doing the cooking.
Ooh, so
I don't have to
zero.
do. I mean, I'm kind of like they're good friends, so I'm sure I'll be doing lots of dishes. Or at least offering to do, trying to do a lot of dishes and clean up and stuff. But usually I get asked to carve the turkey, but our friend's father, slash father-in-law, is like the best turkey carver I've ever seen in my entire life. So I don't even have to do that. It's nice.
I thought you liked cooking.
I do like cooking. I'm sure I'll do it. I'll end up. I mean, I'll help as much as I can, or as much as I'm allowed to. But
I mean, with your ability and knowledge, it seems like a missed opportunity to like invite you over and like say, please don't cook anything.
Yeah, you know? I don't know. Food for some reason tastes really good when someone else makes it, even if it's just stuff that you're used to. Just something about someone else making it.
You remind me of something too with the carving. My brother's been asking me every day. He's like, I need a new chef knife, and I told him that you recommended the Sweessen stuff. I looked it up. It's pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So I saw there's like a ton of different Sweessen styles.
Yeah. How
do you help him, like for just like a normal person cooking, how would you help him like refine which one of those to choose?
It just depends on what he wants. I mean, if he wants, because it's a Japanese
like an everyday like chopping knife.
Yeah, just get a Western style knife and do like 2 minutes of research on steel and make sure you get a steel that's stainless enough that you don't have to worry about it corroding or oxidizing if you're going to cut tomatoes or onions or lemons or something like that. And then just learn how to sharpen it. That's probably the best advice. Those Sweessen knives, there's some of the edges they're left or right-handed knives because they're like the bevel.
You're going deep on knives.
Yeah, it's like 80% of the sharpening happens on one side and 20% happens on the other. So if you're left or right-handed, it depends on which side you'd want the 80% on. But it makes it a little bit easier to sharpen if you're doing most of the sharpening on one side, I find.
All right. You never asked me what I'm going to cook.
What are you going to cook, Phil? How are you doing today?
Oh, good. Thanks for asking. So I've been asked to provide one item for Thanksgiving this year, and it's specifically the Costco pumpkin pie, which, have you had these before or seen them?
No.
It's the size of a car tire. It's a massive pumpkin pie. And also when you go to Costco, I did this because I wanted pumpkin pie in October. $6, you get this like insane, hideous pie. And then I was like, well, you can't have pumpkin pie and not have whipped cream. So I'm like, all right, I got to find the whipped cream at this Costco. Costco only sells 3 packs of whipped cream. You got to be a mad person to eat all that cream.
It's probably the right amount of whipped cream for that pie.
Yeah, they balanced. Like, all right, well, yeah. Of course. All right,
we got of Uncle Buck. He's like
the pancake.
I couldn't get the toast through the door. Yeah.
All right, we got some good questions here. Thank you guys so much for dropping questions. It help us a lot. And please continue to ask questions. BFET Rule says, hey, Nick, any chance Horween will collaborate with Shot anytime soon? You would love a Chrome Excel leather jacket?
Yeah.
Good answer.
Yes.
Aren't they already doing that?
Yeah, I mean, Shot does buy Chrome Excel steeride from us on a fairly regular basis. So I mean, I think I haven't, I'll admit I haven't talked to them in a little bit, so I'm not sure if our longer lead times are affecting their ability to deliver those jackets. I would assume that we're creating problems like we do sometimes for them, but if you keep a lookout, you should be able to find it. They do it in brown and black, and then every once in a while in burgundy. So I would say maybe if you have a shot store in your city, I'm not sure where you are, but maybe ask them, because I think that most of the shot stores that are run by Shot get a bunch of those or a handful of those whenever they make them, and they might be able to let you know, and so you can come in and try it on, because they're expensive, and you shouldn't. I assume that if you're asking for a shot jacket specifically, you probably know your size, but that would be my recommendation.
So I don't know how to ask this question, because I don't know if you're allowed to speak of it. But if you were doing a special collaboration with Shot, would you be allowed to speak about it?
I mean, maybe, but I won't. I'm not going to. I mean, we've done collaborations with Shot, just with Shot on the horsehide stuff. We did a collaboration with them and Context when they were around, which was like a really awesome natural Chrome XL deep pocket motorcycle jacket, which if you can find pictures of, I mean, they didn't make too many of them, but they're unbelievable. And then sort of on a not so regular basis, we'll do something with 316. But I mean, it just depends on who's asking for what. And I mean, with the 316 stuff, they do stuff with Shop pretty regularly, and they don't always use our stuff. So,
all right, I'm going to piggyback on his question. What leather would you like to see in a Shot jacket that doesn't or has not ever existed?
That's a question for me.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Take your time.
That's a good question.
Take your time. It's not a live show or anything.
I think that we'd make a product called Utica. That would be pretty interesting, because it feels really great, and it's soft enough, and it pebbles up, and it would be comfortable enough to wear off the hanger, but also it'll develop a nice shine in the high wear points. And it's not super heavy. It's a chrome tan leather, so it's strong, and it would be comfortable and indestructible. That'd be probably
the Utica kind of reminds me of deerskin a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, and we use it. They use it for lining baseball gloves, also.
Oh yes.
Yep.
I didn't know that. Thank you for letting me indulge in the question section, everybody. All right, Matt. I think Matt has a question for me here. Phil, what is your plan for that piece of branded shell you teased a while back? Can you talk about that? Honestly, Matt, I don't remember what you're talking about, but I think if I have seen a brand before, usually my brain goes to larger pattern pieces. So at Ashland, we have a couple wallet styles that are able to accommodate that larger context, because sometimes those brands are bigger than a Fat Herbie. Right? It's just such a large physical brand. So usually what we end up doing is like a long wallet, and it's again just like the boots that were referenced earlier, is trying to cut these natural and naturally occurring beautiful pieces of leather into appropriate placements on your patterns. So I have to say, if it's a larger brand, like I imagine you're talking about, I would cut it into like a long wallet or like a checkbook cover or a passport holder or something like that. Long says, what drives new leather development more? Customer needs, or just trying to figure out new tannages that customers might find useful? This is a good one for you, Nick.
Both. I mean, there's a lot of things, that drive it. And we've got, there are customer requests. So someone will come in and want something that's similar to what we have, or maybe something that's different. And so we can use that as a starting point. And then there are, things that we do that we think might be interesting, that are sort of inside the skill set. There are, new tanning agents come out, or tanning, not agents is not the right word, but inputs, finishes, and like the olive tanned product, which we've talked about a little bit in the past. That stuff comes around, stuff we think is interesting, so we'll try that out. And then sometimes we make mistakes and just roll with it. And if it's something that's interesting and we can make it again, that has happened too.
I think I've
probably more regularly than people would expect, and we would like to admit.
From 4 years ago, I think I'll take a part of the credit for those mistakes. You're welcome, Nick. for messing up a bunch of leather.
Yeah, it happens.
That's a good. I really like that question from Long. I think from what you've told me though, it's oftentimes a brand or a manufacturer will come to you asking for a specific thing that doesn't exist, and that's your job, is to create the material that they're looking for. I think it's
I would say mostly it's customer driven, and then we do pay attention to. There are like material trends, shiny or dull or soft or firm, and so we pay attention to that stuff too, and then we will work within what's going on, sort of alongside the normal line of stuff that we do. So it's not like we ever are not going to make a traditional product, even if it's not sort of what's maybe being bought up the most in the market. But sometimes we'll add in products alongside the line, or in concert with the line that might stand for a season or two, and they all follow the same tanning process and idea. It's just a lot of times it's just looks and variations on theme.
Gotcha. We got a couple comments here that are, I think, good enough comments to bring up that aren't questions. JFJ Baker reverse engineered a sample and recreated the formula to create making the Russian reindeer leather. So that might be why we're seeing more of that, Nick. Thanks, Jason. Mm-hmm. And Long Ong says, ice cream is greater than whipped cream to go along with pumpkin pie. So, true. Maybe they should sell 3 packs of ice cream. I would be in.
I do like a good ice cream.
You know what? Have you ever? Are you a Costco member, Nick?
I'm not.
I just signed up like this year. I've yet to buy ice cream there. I wonder if they only sell like barrels of ice cream. I'll let you know.
I have a small freezer. I'd have to eat a portion of it to get it to fit into my freezer. So that would be
something I didn't realize. One of the reasons I signed up there is because I wanted the like cheap chicken that's like amazing and huge. And it's like also like $5 for just like awesome chicken. But every time I go, at least in the city here of Chicago, there's like always sold out, and it's crazy. Like, and they're ravenous for this chicken. Anyways,
is it like a rotisserie chicken? What is it?
Yeah, they have their have their own little rotisserie there. So you see the guys skewering them and putting them in the racks. As soon as they come out, there's literally like just hordes of people, like chickens on a feed line, just like ready to grab these chickens off the like little heater box. They're good, but I can't get them. They're like always sold out. All right, I've got a good question here from Matt. This is probably it for both of us, and there's multiple questions. Matt says, what is the largest piece of shell you've ever seen? Are they treated specifically at the tannery? Is there a bidding process for exceptionally large pieces? I want you to take this because I think I know what you're going to say.
So the largest single shell I've seen is probably like 4.5 feet, maybe just over 4 feet, which is gigantic.
It's like double.
And they're actually really challenging to process. Specifically through the shaving process, because they're so big, and the machines are not necessarily designed to handle pieces that are that big, and the shavers that our employees that do the shaving aren't used to seeing that stuff either. So it's a challenge to get those pieces through intact. But if we do get them through intact, they get to the end and they're nice, which is not typical. I mean, I would say, those bigger pieces, maybe a dozen a week that get through and are okay. And of that dozen, I would say, maybe 1 or 2 are like really like perfect. And those just get mixed into the regular sales. We just the way we do it is there's a distribution of grades based on sizes and the cutability. And, people in the past have said, well, can I buy just the big ones? And we just say, like, you can't, because it's not.
You can't control it.
And also it affects everyone else's ability to get a fair shake at, cutting something in a reasonable way and getting good yields. So, occasionally we'll get requests, like custom requests for like polo boots. And they'll say, I need really big ones, and we'll, pull them out and charge an arm and a leg. But that's, that happens like every 5 years, and that's a special case. usually with an Argentinian bootmaker or something like that.
So since this is live, I can grill you and make you feel uncomfortable.
boy.
So don't answer this if you don't want to. You answered that question much differently than I thought you would. What about the mules and donkeys and zebras and stuff?
Yeah, I mean that's not even. I think that those are interesting because they're big.
Maybe we should say that. Sorry to interrupt you. The mules, donkeys, zebras don't have the two oval shapes of shells.
Just the mules.
It's just the mules. They have the continuous shell all through the hindquarters, so there's no separation of shells. So you get like extra long, huge pieces.
It's shaped kind of like a trapezoid instead of like two ovals. Yeah, I mean the.
That's not the largest you've seen.
No, I've seen big ones, but those tend to be not as cuttable because the area that's right in the middle. Again, we can only shave half of it at a time, so you end up with kind of like a seam in the middle, and then, I mean, they for whatever reason they get kind of beat up more too. So I think that overall, like the overall footage is big, but I think that in terms of like cuttable area, that those big, like 4-footer ovals singles are probably the most impressive. And those just to make a comment on those mules, those are good for belts because you can usually get like a long strip because you're not, it's just like you just need to get an uninterrupted long strip. So they're great for one-piece belts when we can get them. But I mean, those we can't specify those or ask for those. They just sort of get to us when they get to us, sort of on an irregular basis.
I often get requests for one-piece shell belts. And I have to tell them to go to Genuine Horween products because you might even have a couple now, but they've probably been sitting there for a while because they're larger sizes. But how many?
I'm all out of the one-piece belts, but I do have a few. I've started to accumulate again, but it's going to be a while before I get enough to actually make a run.
Give me a sense of how many of those long mule shells that you get per year that are appropriate for like one-piece shell belts.
Well, I mean, the last few years has been none. I think we probably get, I don't know, 30 of those a year, maybe.
Like on a normal year.
Yeah, I mean, and out of the more than 30 shells or horse hides that we process. So there just aren't that many. And then, some of them aren't even big and others are, one side is nice and the other side's completely trashed or branded or something. So it's...
The other question he has, is there a bidding process for those large shells?
There isn't.
Yeah.
No, it's just sort of like we have our customers and the people that we, it's a tricky situation because we can't, based on raw materials and personnel for us now, and then how long it takes and a bunch of other factors, we make as much as we can and sell all that we make. So, we have our customer list that we're super loyal to because they've been customers for a long time, and we're really careful to not start peeling stuff away from those people for personal gain.
Yeah. But, well, it's interesting because
it happens every once in a while.
You buy your materials based on the market price, especially for hides.
Right.
Like why not? Oh, I think I know the answer then. Why not auction off or make a market for your finished goods, for your finished material?
It's just, because we've got, it's complicated, I guess, but
it's made to order, right? It's not like you're making a bag of wheat, right?
Right.
It's not a commodity.
We've made it specifically for an order. So if we were to be taking and doing that, taking the shells and selling them or whatever and selling them, that would be leather that we'd be taking away from somebody else that we couldn't deliver, even though we've said we could deliver it, which is kind of a bad look. And, also there are leather merchants and distributors that we work with in different parts of the world. And, they do break things into smaller quantities for bespoke and made to order in smaller factories. So, but I'm not aware of anyone doing like a tuna auction like they do in Japan at the fish market. Yeah.
A cordovan might make a little bit of sense. Or here's a really funny and good question from Orlog. Is it true that Chromexcel stretches, or are my feet lying to me?
It stretches. Yeah, it's a stretchier leather overall. It's and that's because of the way it's dried. So it gets air dried just by hanging it up, and when it dries, it shrinks like 20 or 25%. So that shrinkage makes the leather super dense because you're taking the same amount of substance and you're spreading it over less square footage, which is one of the things that makes that leather what it is. I mean, we can dry it other ways. It's just not as good, so we don't.
You also lose 25% payment on that because you're getting 25% less area.
Oh yeah, it's a yield killer, and yield drives like basically all of, well, not all of our business, but all of the tanning business is, you're trying to spread your tanning dollars out over as many square feet as possible because it takes, basically the same amount of work to process a 20 square foot piece as it does a 25 square foot piece. A little bit of material difference, but so it's kind of counterintuitive to make something and intentionally make it 25% smaller, but it's better. But yeah, I mean, we could dry it against glass, like paste it, or we could toggle it, which is like to use clamps and not allow it, dry it so it's not allowed to shrink, and it's just not. We've done it. We have a product that is that, and we just don't really make it or sell it because it's just not nice.
Yeah.
Or we don't think it's nice. As nice.
It's all right. I actually kind of like the toggle. I like the toggle chrome excel. It's different.
It's okay. For some applications, it's okay.
It's different. All right. Marco, who is your teammate at the tannery, you guys work together.
Hey, Marco.
Says, what happened to the football and basketball Birkenstock sandals? Did they release or no longer in the works?
Yeah, they released. They should be out there in the world.
I think Esteban has a pair. He made that leather. He's all proud of it.
My boss, who's also my dad, has a pair. Marco, I'll talk to you, Marco. We'll figure it out for you. Marco works
in the splitting department. Rigando has a good question here, and I think I've thought about this a lot. He says, does Horween make bridle leather one of my favorite types of leather? Yes.
Yes.
But it's different. It's also different.
Yeah, there's like the traditional English bridle, I think is what people think about, which is like what Herman Oak does, which is like that super beefy, veg. But we do something kind of like that. I mean those the tanneries that do that are good at it.
Really good.
Sort of we're good at different stuff, so we don't do too much of that, but we do have a product called Illini Latigo, which is not the same, but really great for that application. I mean, super strong and resilient and waxy and water resistant, and works great for that stuff. They use it for harnesses and like dog leads for very highly trained dogs.
Most of the Illini you make is heavyweights, like 6, 7, 8, 9, super thick belting leather.
9, 10.
But
10
when
plus.
you've made it in lighter weights, like 4 ounce, that Illini, especially the burgundy color, I don't know what it is about that burgundy. The flesh side and the grain side are just like remarkable. I like
it's nice.
Illini Latigo is super nice.
It's really firm, so the applications are somewhat limited, but for like belts and straps and all the stuff that we're talking about, it's really great. Yeah, because it's finished on both sides. So the flesh side, the suede side is super smooth.
All right, Matt's got a question for me. Phil, have you ever tried making a pair of footwear? Do you think you'll ever try? I think you would make great stuff. I haven't, Matt. That's a really good question. I love boots and shoes a lot, so I'm interested. Honestly, at our shop, I'm the least skilled person in making stuff out of everybody there because I do it the least amount at this point. Everybody there's so much better than me at making things. Right now, most of my role is like, I still like to do the actual work because I like it, but I also want to know how the stuff is done. So I'll stitch, I'll cut, I'll stamp, I'll finish. I finish most days. But honestly, like we're just so out of time that to even adding adjacent products that aren't footwear. Like I'm wearing a shell Cordovan belt right now that I know a lot of people are asking for. We just don't have the capacity to create as much stuff as we can think of at the moment. So to answer your question, I haven't made a piece of footwear, but I would love to. I don't know if it's in the cards as like a production thing for us. And also, there's a lot of people making good footwear. So I'd have to, if I were to do it, I have to have a vision of how I could do it better, which I don't have now, and I haven't thought about it. So we did a poll here, Nick. I said Costco hot dogs, yes or no, and majority yes. People like the Costco hot dogs. I'll take you sometime. I'm a member.
Okay. It's a members only place.
It is very exclusive.
You have to dress up.
You just have to look good as hell.
Okay.
Andrew,
they give you a jacket. They give you a sport coat when you walk in there because you have to.
It's like the Friars Club. It's not the Friars Club, Nick. It's Costco.
I haven't been there either.
You know what? They have pretty good. I got this like whiskey upstairs. It's pretty good and not expensive. Just saying. Andrew says, do you know of any breed of cow that's bred specifically for leather, Nick?
Nope.
It doesn't exist.
I don't think it's a thing.
Does not exist. It doesn't financially make sense.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, it's a byproduct of, that's where all of the money is in the food part.
All right. Shout out here for an incredible YouTube name. Tom Doomtube says, could you ever make a shell cordovan jacket? Are they big enough? I've had this question asked to me multiple times. Just give us a sense, Nick. How big are these shells? Can you make a jacket out of it?
If you were mad at yourself, you could, because it would be like a patchwork. Because the biggest, we were talking about that a little bit, the biggest pieces we ever get are 4 feet, and the average is like around 2. So, and a jacket is maybe
10, 11.
I think that when they're figuring like yields, they order 30 feet per jacket.
Oh wow!
So that's a huge amount of.
That reminds me. Have you seen how little money Thursday charges for their jackets? It's like I forget. I'll look it up later and tell you. But it's either $250 or $300 for a full leather jacket. And I look at that thing and go, "There's no way I could make even just the material for that price." So if you guys like a jacket, I don't know how good they are, but that's a screaming deal. Thursday, I think they have a Chrome XL jacket and some non-Chrome XL stuff too. Matt likes my subtle. Matt likes my subtle system plug.
System plug.
I legitimately like these. I noticed that if you listen to the episode with Anthony Spina from System, I was completely sincere in that episode talking about feeling included. I'm drinking one of the heavier ones now just because they are the ones that I have left. Because I actually tend to drink the zeros first. I don't necessarily want to be buzzed all the time. But there is something about going to a party and or a bar and you're the only person not drinking something. It feels weird to not just even hold a cup. I've always felt out of place. So I think Anthony's really onto something with this notion. And the other thing about Anthony that I don't know if came across fully or completely in the episode is that guy is such an incredible builder of community. And if you haven't seen the process like I have, if you're in Chicago, you may have seen old style become a thing again. It sort of faded away recently. And he also, I think he gets full credit for popularizing White Claw, which is a huge brand. So that guy was incredible. Just if you haven't listened to it, take that idea of how I perceive him when you listen to it. He's a very talented individual. And that's the other thing about this podcast, Nick. Some of the episodes have not come out yet. And the ones that have come out with are also incredible people. But the couple that are coming out next are some of the most mind-blowing conversations that I've had, just because I'm so impressed by the person's thought process. And I had no idea, Jason from Maker, who this episode will come out on Monday. Like I said, Nick, I was just editing this thing, listening to him talk again and reliving our conversation. How impressive is Jason? Guy's incredible.
He knows a lot of stuff. I mean, he's definitely thrown himself into that.
I think
applicate and his ability to just think about things and design things in a very thoughtful way is, I think, impressive.
He's a unique mind, I would say.
Yep.
So look forward to that episode on Monday. Also, I'm not done with questions here. I'm going to keep it rolling because I'm having fun. If you have to go, Nick? You feeling good?
No, we're good.
You just got a couple more here.
Yep.
Van Gogh. I love your art, by the way, Van Gogh. If you have a beautiful pair of whiskey shell Alden, I'm sorry, I made myself laugh. Van Gogh is you're a very talented artist. Speaking of talented people, he says, if I have a beautiful pair of whiskey shell Alden boots, where's the best place to sell these? I know there's eBay, but there's a better place. Are you familiar with any marketplaces, Nick?
Oh boy.
No is a good answer.
I mean, I know that there's a big marketplace portion of the Stitch Down community, and I think you have to be a Stitch Down member, which is it's not like it's crazy expensive, but I'm not sure you're looking to spend money to sell the shoes, but there are people there that know that they're what they're buying, and they're probably willing to pay what they're worth. So I would maybe start there. I mean, then there's the forums. There's like Style Forum and
there's
Ask Andy and
Goodyear Welt on Reddit.
Yeah, but I think that eBay gets patrolled pretty well by people looking for shell stuff. So you wouldn't be making a mistake by putting them there either.
Matt says Grailed is another popular place, and then he said Stitch on Premium Discord.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt has another question that's on point. He says, Phil and Nick, do you plan on hosting Ben and Ticho from the Stitch Down podcast as guests? Well, spoiler, Matt, we recorded an episode already with both of them. I don't know how much I'll spoil the show, but it was a great conversation. That you're probably looking at that one in about 3 weeks. Will be coming out. Honestly, I haven't even opened up the project yet, but that has been that interview has been completed. And MB is here. Yeah, they were really. What's funny about them for me? It's an interesting experience to be a fan of something and then be a part of it also. So you and I were both guests on the Stitch Down Shoecast. But I find Ben to be really funny. And I also find Ticho to be really funny. So here's a unveiling for you guys. If you're a fan of the Stitch Down Shoecast, when you are a guest on the show and you're recording the episode, it's pretty much exactly as you hear it when it's published. Because Ben just goes. It's incredible how talented that guy is. He's so creative and smart. But he made me laugh because he said Shoecast maybe 15 times before he introduced me. So as I came on, I'm like immediately laughing. Ben is a really good host, and I actually have pinged him before, like, hey, please tell me what to do. I suck. And also when you did your episode with him, Nick, I remember you finished and you're like, man, it was good, but like it was kind of weird because Ben was just like sitting in a closet. Which nobody said that. Which nobody sees.
Did I say that?
You said that. No, I don't know if you said weird, but you're just like, oh yeah, I've recorded the episode. Yeah, like you just go on camera with him and you talk, and he's like in a closet.
It was super smart though, because if you're in a place with all the like hanging fabric, like it kills all the sound. There's no echo.
Reverb. True.
The things you learn when you record stuff.
All right. I think we got 2 more questions here, Nick. MB is here. And by the way, thank you. Before we finish up here, I appreciate you guys so much being here on, I know it's the Ashland channel that we're overtaking. There's nobody over on the Full Grain channel on YouTube. So I didn't want to do the live stream there. So I overtook the Ashland channel. But if you want to join, just click a follow for the Full Grain podcast. I think I put the link in the description. I've been posting clips over there of the show. Usually, it's a podcast, so it's audio only, but I'll put video clips of the interview up on that channel. And I think I might start to do some other like non-podcast things over there too, which Nick and I haven't really talked about yet, so I won't mention it. But thank you guys for being here. It's been really fun to answer your questions and very thoughtful questions too. MB says, Nick, does Horween collaborate with other tanneries? Any info or knowledge sharing happening in the background? Knowledge sharing. So I said that, I phrased it very strangely. But do you work with any other tanneries?
We don't. And I'm not, I mean,
I'm going to call you out because I think you did something with Wicket.
Yeah, I mean, that was,
Very small.
Yeah, I mean, and that was like a traditional relationship where they sent us their crust and we finished it, in that case, like cordovan to see what it would look like. And it was interesting, but it was not, I don't know, it never went anywhere. But I wouldn't necessarily consider that a collaboration because like there are a lot of tanneries, you know, that they're called tanneries that are really just finishing places, finishing houses. So they'll buy the crust and then finish it and then sell it as their product, which is a totally reasonable thing to do because finishing is definitely an art. Where we do collaborate is with equipment. Like if we're looking to buy a new shaving machine or a new measuring machine or a new piece of equipment, and we know a tannery that has that exact piece of equipment, oftentimes like we can send them something of ours and they'll run it through that for us so that we can see how it translates to our product. But that's sort of the max collaboration that happens, I would say.
Good question though. Because I think, you know how like, at least in Chicago, the breweries kind of like team up. They do like an epic team up like brew collab. Maybe think about it, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, our formulas are all proprietary, developed by us, and not available to anybody else. You know, they're not patented because when you patent something that's formulated, your patent isn't forever. It's only for a number of years. So after that, it's 13 or 17 years. I always forget the duration, but it becomes public domain, and then anyone can use that product.
All right, so rapid fire here because I was going to do just one last question here, which Orlog asks, where do you post the podcasts? So if you go on anywhere you listen to podcasts, for me, I listen to podcasts. I used to listen to them on Apple Podcasts because I have an iPhone, but I've been listening to podcasts on Spotify. You can find it everywhere that you want to listen to podcasts. I post clips on the YouTube channel. And then, like I said, if you have questions like we did for tonight, I will respond to you on an email or honestly, like anywhere you can reach us. We have an Instagram. If people DM me on Instagram, I've been messaging people today. We're sort of like everywhere you're probably already at. You can find full grain podcasts all over the place. Van Gogh, my favorite painter, also has another question, Nick, that maybe you could rapid fire for me. Do you do do you do tours of the tannery?
Yes. Yeah, we try to do tours as much as we can. It's been tough just personnel wise because everybody that we do have, like even like myself or my father or we're all sort of doing other stuff too at this point. I mean, like either my father or myself we're sorting all the cordovan right now. So if I'm not at my desk, I'm actually like out doing something, or he is. And so there hasn't been a ton of time, but hopefully that will get a little bit better. We've been getting some more people through the door, so that's really promising. But the idea has been to set up, at least the theory is to set up like a monthly sign up and to do tours on a sort of regular dates and times so we can plan better. So you wouldn't be necessarily in a group of everybody that you knew, but you would be in. So more like a typical tour structure because we get requests pretty often and we'd like to try to get people through to spread the gospel.
In the System episode, shout out to Anthony from System. He had mentioned that one of his favorite Chicago experiences was a tour of the tannery. So I'd be excited to participate in a tour when you do that again. I was trying to end the episode here, but there's a couple good questions that have come in, Nick, if you got a sec.
Let's keep going. Yeah.
How do you care for horsehide leather? What should I not do? There's very little information that HVHBJBJB, comma J has found.
It's easy to remember.
Yeah, it's a good catchy name. HVHBJBJB, comma J. I can't even read it.
Yeah.
All right, horsehide though. Seriously, for like a jacket, maybe.
So I guess there's two. There's the cordovan approach, and then there's sort of like the every other approach. So that would be for like horse fronts and things that aren't cordovan. So cordovan doesn't need a ton of care, especially if you're wearing it in reasonable environments and climates. So just like brush it. Usually I brush it every time before I wear it, and then I would say like every maybe like dozen wearings or so, I might give it like a little tiny bit of conditioner, and I use Venetian cream usually because we use that during the process, and just like a little bit, and I let it sit on there and put like a thin layer on it, and I let it sit like even overnight, or you can even just leave it on and then brush it for like 10 minutes, like each shoe, and then it'll bring everything back. But it doesn't need a whole lot, but unless you get like a deep scratch, which happens, and even those you can work out with by sort of massaging the leather in the direction of the scratch, either with a spoon or with a deer bone if you're a traditionalist.
All right, non-shell,
yeah, for non-shell, I mean that's just like a right. I mean, you can just take care of it. If it starts to look dry, put a conditioner on it. Put a conditioner on it in a spot that's not conspicuous at first to check it out to see if it's going to give you the result that you want. Usually it'll darken it, definitely at first, and sometimes it can stay darker. So just make sure that it's going to do what you want. But I would say the type of conditioner depends a lot on the product and how you're using it. So it's kind of hard for me to give you like a specific recommendation on what to use, unless I know what the product is in the leather.
Do you have to treat horsehide differently than other leathers?
No, not really.
Yeah, it's not. What did Jason say? He's not precious about it.
Yeah.
It's not like a. There's one last question here from Matt, who's had some great questions tonight. Thanks, Matt. Matt asked, "Is it possible to make a leather scented candle?" And I want to take this one, Nick, because I remember about a decade ago, J. Crew created a candle that said cordovan on it. And I remember in the office, Nick, at Horween, we were all looking at this thing like, man, they made like a cordovan candle. I wonder what that smells like. And it had a big picture of a wingtip shoe on the front of the candle packaging. So I think Skip, your dad, bought one of the candles. And we got it. And we're like, this doesn't smell like cordovan at all. This smells just like a regular ass candle. And
it's like such a specific expectation by such a small group of people that would have that candle and want it to smell like.
You know what though? Dan, my business partner, and I have spent many hours trying to find places that would make custom scents to create cordovan scented candles because we thought it was a great idea. A lot of people love, like, it's an awesome smell. I'll just sit here and smell right now, Nick. It smells incredible. So it was like a really, really good idea because it smells great. So we tried to find custom scent makers, literally couldn't get responses from people. And then we tried to make our own, like I was trying to make a sachet. I was calling them smelly bags. We could maybe you take like the shavings from the cordovan shaving process and like put it in like a little, like a cloth bag or something and just put it in a drawer, like sachet. But that also kind of didn't give you the same effect. So anyways, Matt, that's a really good question. And if you know a custom scent maker that will make this smell for me, I will pay a lot of money to be connected to them because I really want a cordovan candle.
Yeah, the sachet thing or the
smelly bags.
Smelly bags didn't. Yeah. Like if you put like cordovan scraps in a muslin bag and put it under your car seat, I bet it would make your car smell good.
We tried it
in the summer.
Matt, my brother Matt, actually takes some of our scrap leather from the manufacturer and just like throws it in his car. He doesn't put it in a bag. I tried it with the shavings and it didn't have the same effect. And I don't know what the hell that's about. But it didn't really work. But it smells great.
Yeah, we did try it too a little bit. So we took the stuffing blends for the leathers, which are oils and greases and waxes already, and
ugly candles.
We made a super like brown candles, but because we have paraffin, we talked about the Illini Latigo. There's a lot of paraffin in that stuffing blend, so we actually have paraffin that's part of the process and some of the stuff we use. So we just adjusted the paraffin content on some super small amounts, and held a wick in place with our fingers until the thing hardened enough that we could let it go. So it wasn't a very scientific approach, but it was fine. I mean, it smelled good, but I think that we were maybe a little bit heavy on like the tallow, wool grease, lanolin part because they tend to burn pretty quick.
Yeah, it needs a little bit more wax and less grease.
Yeah.
You're just making like a lantern or something.
It's like a
hot. Probably really hot.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe not the safest experiment.
I'm gonna give the applause tonight for the audience here for all those great questions. Do you want to do favorites tonight, Nick? You feeling favorable? Is that a word? Favorable?
Favorable?
Are you feeling like offering a favorite?
I don't have a favorite. How about I share something that made me laugh today? And I might be behind on that, but I saw on, and who knows, I must have been like taking a break from working so hard, and I was looking on the internet, and there's a flyer that's attached to a lamppost, and it says, "Come watch me eat an entire rotisserie chicken." Have you seen this, Phil?
No, but it sounds amazing.
So it's this guy, and it's like November 6th will be the 40th consecutive day that I've eaten an entire rotisserie chicken. And there's just a picture of this guy and the time when it's going to be and where it's going to be. And the bottom of it says, "This is not a party." And apparently like hundreds of people ended up like going to watch this. Like there's pictures of like all these people standing around this guy at like a collapsible table just eating a chicken. And like it's on, it was in Philadelphia. Like there's a story about it on today.com.
This is not like a comedic event.
I think it's a comedic
Parody.
event, but it's like it's so ridiculous that on November 7th that Today wrote an article on this. Like a professional journalist sat down at a word processing program and typed this article. And I just think it just made me laugh. The whole thing is ridiculous.
My favorite. Are you a Dave Chappelle fan?
I am.
Or AKA David Chappelle?
Yes.
Okay.
He's funny.
Did you watch the SNL opening from a week ago?
No, I didn't. How was it?
I watched it last night. So I guess there was like some controversy about it. I watched it last night. It was really funny. Really funny. And the guy, you should watch it. It's long. It's a 15-minute monologue.
Wow.
Stand up. I mean, he's a stand-up comedian, so he's like really good, obviously. But the guy goes places that are a little dark. He went to the Kanye stuff. We've gone to the Kanye thing for a moment. He brings it up. He talks about it, but he presents it in a way that is humorous, obviously. But it's also like, I think it's something that only he can do is start these types of conversations and make me laugh the whole time. So it's like, I don't know. I don't want to spoil it because you haven't seen it, but pretty powerful speech that he has, even though he wasn't like giving a speech. He was being a stand-up comedian, but just like the message is well received by me and in an entertaining and fun way that doesn't make me sad about the world. I don't know. It just made me really appreciate people being able to say stuff. That's all. That's a little too deep for the end of the show here, Nick.
No, I think that's good. I think that he's identified that he can say those things and a lot of people can't. And he's already found out that there are consequences and he's willing to accept them. I think that he thinks I think he wants to be funny, but I think he also thinks it's important to say certain things because no one else will or wants to or can. But I don't know.
I'm going to bring it back to my buddy Noah, who gave me my favorite quote maybe of like my life. And the long story short is we were trying to go do something fun. It was like for his bachelor party. And we're like, oh, we should go do XYZ, get a cabin in the woods. Oh, well, it's going to be kind of expensive. And he goes, you know what, man? Like life is so hard and there's so much awful stuff going on. He said to me, I'll pay any amount of money for any amount of joy. And Dave Chappelle and this thing just brought me joy. And one of the other podcast episodes we did together, I brought up Kill Tony. Man, I had so much fun by myself sitting in this chair just laughing. So like, just give me some joy, and that's all I care about. So like, it doesn't matter everything else. I just want a joyful experience. All right.
Yeah.
Somebody likes John Wick 4, Taylor Swift. Hey, this Q&A thing kind of works. Orlog's a little bit embarrassed that he's liking Taylor Swift. My wife tried to buy tickets for this Taylor Swift thing. Have you heard about this, Nick?
Oh, I'm sure they're $1 billion.
She came home after work all upset. And she's like, they broke the internet today. I said, what? What are you talking about? Oh, like, I feel embarrassed, like, bringing this up because it's so stupid. But, you know, like, all my friends at work were into Taylor Swift, and we were all trying to buy tickets together to go to the Taylor Swift show. She hasn't played in years. She hasn't played tour. I mean, it's COVID. So she's like her first tour in 5 years or something like that. And I guess Ticketmaster, their website broke, and you couldn't buy tickets. And what ended up happening is you just get these predatory scalpers that were just charging ridiculous money. And, you know, Laura and her coworkers couldn't go to the show. Anyways, Taylor Swift, I don't think you should feel embarrassed because I think she also has like all 10 of the top 10 songs right now. Something like that.
Also, the music that we listen to, Phil, is way more embarrassing than Taylor Swift.
Well, speaking of music, let's play the theme song, get out of here. It's heavy. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you so much. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate you. Thanks for being my friend.
Thanks for the same.
Thanks for doing all the work.
Appreciate it.
All right. See you guys later.
See you guys. Thank you.